If you've ever had to deploy code to a server, you know the feeling, right? That little bit of dread. The feature is done, it works perfectly on your machine, but now comes the part that everyone secretly hates.
Oh man, this just hits home. This is the painful reality of manual deployments. It's stressful, it's slow, and honestly, it's just begging for something to go wrong. You're just typing commands, holding your breath, and when it inevitably breaks, it's a mad scramble to fix it. And poof, there goes 45 minutes of your life you're never getting back. This just isn't how modern software teams operate anymore.
Because thankfully, there is a much, much better way. The difference between deploying in a few minutes versus a whole hour is all about automation. And that automation has a name, a CI/CD pipeline.
So, what is this CI/CD thing anyway? Let's break it down. No jargon, I promise. Think of it as an automated highway for your code, getting it from your laptop to your users safely and quickly. Okay, first up is CI, or continuous integration. See, in the old days, developers would go off and code by themselves for weeks. And when they finally tried to merge all that code together, it was total chaos. They literally called it integration hell. CI totally fixes this. Now, every single time you push code, an automated system grabs it, builds it, and tests it right then and there. If something's broken, you know in seconds, not weeks down the line. The other half of the puzzle is CD, continuous delivery or continuous deployment. So continuous delivery means that every time your code passes all those CI tests, it's automatically packaged up and made ready for release. Continuous deployment, well, that takes it one step further. If the tests pass, boom, the code goes straight to production. No human has to touch it. This is how companies like Meta and Netflix can deploy new code thousands of times a day.
And the difference is just night and day. We're talking about moving from these huge, scary Big Bang releases every few weeks to shipping small, super low-risk updates multiple times a day. The whole thing goes from this manual, error-prone chore to a completely automated, super reliable system. So how does this automation actually work? Well, it turns out that pretty much every CI/CD pipeline, no matter what tool you use, follows the same 5 basic stages. This is the blueprint for all of them. It all kicks off at the source stage, which is just a fancy way of saying a developer pushes code to Git. That push triggers the build stage, where the code gets compiled into something runnable, like a Docker image. Next up, and this one's crucial, is the test stage. This is where all your automated checks run. If that all looks good, it moves to staging, which is basically a clone of your production environment for one last look. And finally, when everything is green, it's deployed to production for your users to see. Now, this brings us to the golden rule of a good pipeline: fail fast. You always want to run your fastest, cheapest tests first. Think about it. If you have a simple typo in your code, you want to know in 30 seconds from a quick syntax check, not 10 minutes from now after a massive integration test finally finishes. It's all about keeping that feedback loop for developers as tight as possible. Okay, so we get the theory, but to actually build one of these things, you need a tool. And while there are a bunch of options out there, we're going to focus on the one that has really become the go-to for modern teams: GitHub Actions. Just to give you an idea of the scale we're talking about, GitHub Actions runs over 6 million automated workflows every single day. This isn't some niche tool, it's a battle-tested platform that's used by 90% of Fortune 100 companies. The community around it is just massive. So let's compare it to the old school choice, Jenkins. With GitHub Actions, there is zero setup. It's already built right into your repository. GitHub manages all the servers, and you defined everything in these really simple YAML files. Jenkins, on the other hand, well, you have to set up your own server, you have to maintain it, you have to wrestle with a complex ecosystem of plugins, and you have to write your pipelines in a language called Groovy. For most teams starting out today, the choice is pretty obvious. All right. Enough theory, let's get our hands dirty and actually build this thing. We're going to walk right through the YAML code that makes this pipeline work, all the way from a code push to a live deployment. So your entire pipeline lives in one YAML file right inside a .github/workflows folder in your project. Let's look at this first part, the test job. See that on push branches main part? That just tells GitHub Actions, hey, run this every time code gets pushed to the main branch. The steps are super readable. It checks out your code, sets up Node.js for you, runs npm install to get your dependencies, and finally runs your tests with npm test. Simple as that. Now here is a pro tip that will save you so much time: caching. Without it, your pipeline has to re-download all of your project's dependencies every single time it runs. But with caching, it just reuses the ones from the last run. And the impact is huge. A build that took 3 minutes can suddenly drop to just 45 seconds. This is how you keep your pipelines nice and fast.
Okay, so once the tests pass, our next job kicks in. See that little needs test line? That's what connects the jobs together, making sure this only runs if the test succeeded. This job's purpose is to build our app into a Docker container. And notice we're also turning on Docker layer caching here. It's another huge time saver that only rebuilds the parts of your image that have actually changed before it pushes it up to a container registry.
And here we are, the final piece of the puzzle, the deployment job. This step takes that Docker image we just built and tells our Kubernetes cluster to deploy it. That kubectl rollout status command you see there is really important. It makes the pipeline wait and confirm that the new version is actually up and running successfully before it gives the final green checkmark. And just like that, fully automated from push to production. So building the pipeline is one thing, but running it securely and efficiently in a real production environment, that takes a little more know-how. Let's go over the tips that separate the basic setups from the truly professional ones. Let's talk security, and this is a big one. Never, ever, ever put passwords or API keys directly in your YAML files. Instead, use GitHub's encrypted secrets. You store them in your repo settings where they're safe, and then you just reference them with this special secret syntax. And for cloud stuff, the absolute best practice today is something called OIDC. Instead of storing a password at all, your pipeline gets a temporary, short-lived token when it runs. It's like giving it a one-time entry code instead of leaving a key hidden under the doormat. And how do you deploy without bringing your whole site down? You use what's called a zero downtime strategy. A rolling update, which is the default in Kubernetes, is pretty smart. It gradually replaces old versions of your app with the new one. A canary release is even more cautious. It'll send a tiny fraction of your users, say 5%, to the new version first. You watch it, make sure nothing's on fire, and then you can slowly roll it out to everybody else. So there you have it. We've gone from that painful 45-minute manual mess to a fully automated, reliable pipeline that gets your code out in minutes. This kind of automation doesn't just make things safer and faster, it gives you back your most valuable resource, your time. So the only question left is, what are you going to build with it?